perspective of Lord Brahma, the first created being and the greatest master of Vedic knowledge in the universe. This knowledge is an important part of the esoteric teaching. Tomorrow, we'll get into some of the more recent Vedic history, and that'll cover the Vedic Empire and its recent disintegration about 5,000 years ago, which set up the present situation of many conflicting nation-states all over the world, and we'll be in a better position once we go through that to understand why those nation-states might have an interest in suppressing the Vedic knowledge. Vedic knowledge gives us the overall picture that is completely different from what the nation-states want us to believe. Each of them has a vested interest in portraying themselves as the most enlightened, most advanced civilization in history. However, this is actually not the case. Vedic history portrays us as devolving from a higher, more glorious past. Actually, we are fallen. We are in a spiritually fallen condition of life, and we have to get free from this fall down and restore ourselves to our original exalted condition. And that is the process of self-realization. This process only makes sense against a background that explains how we fall and how we have devolved from a higher state in the past to our current fallen condition. The human soul is capable of so much more than what we are doing today. And the Vedic teaching emphasizes this. It raises the bar for religious teachings in general because it also includes scientific truth, such as the atomic structure of matter and other things that were supposedly developed or discovered only recently. The Vedic civilization had an extensive and very sophisticated technology, which was based on the science of life instead of the science of dead, dull matter. So the Vedic civilization was superior to ours in every way. What caused it to fall apart? Well, we'll get into all that tomorrow. But the message that I want you to take away from this episode of Your Perfect Body is that the Vedic culture is something very old, very great, very sophisticated, and very wonderful. It's passed down to us from higher sources. In other words, it literally comes from out of this world. It is not a product of human beings on planet Earth. It is a teaching which has been given to us by higher sources, higher beings, beings of greater intelligence and greater power than we are. So, if we accept this teaching just as it is, then we gain a great deal. For example, if, let's say, we go to some island in the middle of the Pacific where there are just very primitive people, and we bring out a radio or a television or some other technological wonder that we've created, and we teach these folks how to use it, well, all of a sudden they're in connection with the whole world. All of a sudden they can communicate, they can learn, and they can understand things that are far beyond their normal horizons. Similarly, if we accept the Vedas as they are, this is like a communication from a much higher and greater culture. It's like those islanders getting a hold of a powerful radio receiver that suddenly puts them in touch with the whole world. The Vedic literature puts us in touch with the whole universe and the whole history of the actual past that has produced us the way we are. So it helps us understand who we are, why we're in the fix that we are in, and how to get out. If, let's say, the islanders, to use the same analogy, let's say we give them a broken radio, and they can only hear one station, and that happens to be a propaganda station that's giving them all kinds of false ideas for someone's political advantage, well, then that would just manipulate them instead of really enlightening them, wouldn't it? So similarly, if we accept only the modern explanation of the origin of mankind and the history of the world, that's just like the natives tuning into a propaganda station on a broken radio. It doesn't really give us an unbiased, wide-angle view of our history and where we came from. So you might say, well, if the Vedic culture was that advanced, and if the human race is actually much older than modern science says it is, why isn't there any evidence? Well, you have to read Cremo and Thompson's book, Hidden History of the Human Race, Forbidden Archaeology. Of course, Thompson and Cremo are disciples of the esoteric teaching, but they don't talk much about that in their book. Basically, they take apart all of the archaeological evidence that's ever been submitted, and they analyze it, and they show that it actually supports the case for humanity's more ancient origin, much better than it does the modern evolutionary theory. So, if we actually look at the evidence, we find that it does support an ancient origin of the human race, far, far more ancient than anyone in the modern world would like to speculate. And why don't they like to think about this? You have to ask yourself the question, who benefits and how do they benefit by giving us this lie? Well, the modern society likes to create the illusion that we are the most advanced, and by following our plan, we will become more advanced. Just see, in a couple of 100 years, we've moved from hard work down on the farm to cities and cars and all this good stuff. So if you follow our plan, then in the future we'll become even more advanced, and won't that be wonderful? So this is the bill of goods that we're being sold. However, we have to put this in context. In the ancient past, there was a civilization that had even much greater physical resources than we do. However, their technology was not based on material science, it was based on spiritual science, the science of consciousness and life, not the science of atoms and molecules. This science is doing nothing but polluting the world and destroying all life, because they don't know actually what is life. They don't know what is spirit, and so on. So because they are ignorant of the actual fundamentals of life, their science is toxic to life. It's anti-life. And if it's allowed to proceed, it will eventually destroy all life on this planet. And therefore, part of our program is to turn this mess around and restore our natural balance with nature. So this is all part of a very large picture, which we will give in the next 2 installments, of the history of the world according to the Vedic literature. And this is important to you because this will give you the wide view over our situation. And actually, it will help you to motivate yourself to follow the Vedic teaching and restore yourself to your original perfect body. We hope you've enjoyed this edition of My Perfect Body. This is David Hughes, your host, reminding you to visit us on the web at esotericteaching.org, where you can purchase the complete Esoteric Teaching Introductory Seminar DVD and many CDs of transcendental music and mantras.